Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. And we're just going to get through this really quick because nobody cares about this. The Dolphins have signed Mike Pollardy from the Carolina Panthers. He's a great punter. Matt Hawk was super inconsistent, so I'm actually happy about this. And it supports a good backbone of the team, which is the defense. So, as of right now at least, hopefully we add some playmakers. But, with some of the moves that the Dolphins have made already, they have improved the defense a little bit, I think, with some of the moves that they've with what they've made. So, Matt, like I said, Matt was pretty inconsistent. Michael Pollardy, one of the better punters in the league. Didn't have to punt that much last year. The Panthers rarely punted last year if you look at the numbers. But nonetheless, he's still a great punter and one of the league's best. So it was a great signing. And like I said, Matt Hawk was a little too inconsistent. Great special teamers for fakes and stuff of that nature. But not the greatest when it comes to consistently being a consistent punter. So it was an upgrade over Hawk, and not really much else to say about that. So let's move on to the next news story. Let's get this out of the way very quickly. So if you didn't hear, Ryan Fitzpatrick has moved on. He is a Washington football player now. He's moved on to the nation's capital. I just wanted to throw this in here really quick. We're not going to talk about it, but God bless him. I think we're all hopeful that he has a good year and at least gets to make it to the playoffs. It doesn't affect us. He's in the NFC, so I think we'll all be rooting for him to win that division and finally make it to the playoffs. He deserves it, and I think all of Dolphins fandom will be rooting for Fitz. And let's move on to this next news story. Now, this is a juicy one. You know what? We might save these for the last, the big ones, and just talk about the smaller ones first. I feel like that's... I'm losing my train of thought now. All right, let's start with this. Who cares about this? This is another one that I just want to throw in here that doesn't really deserve too much talk time. This is the latest on Tua Tagovailoa. If you don't know, Brian Flores held basically like a State of the Union, that they do this every single year. And this is what Brian had to say about the Tua Tagovailoa situation. Don't know why I stopped it there, but the Tua situation. Flores stressed about Tua, again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors, that he, quote, is excited to work with the second-year pro. He went on to say, this is again Brian Flores, this is a quote. He said, quote, you think about a situation last year coming off the hip and throwing him into the fire. He started 9 games and made a lot of improvement throughout the season. He had some ups and downs. I'm excited about the year 1 to year 2 jump. This time in the offseason, it is really going to be helpful for him and all the rookies. I'm excited about working with Tua. This doesn't mean anything. I don't think this means anything. We'll see what the Dolphins end up doing. There's been a lot of reports before this that are interesting, that apparently a lot of people around the league, if you believe NBC Sports, they reported that a lot of people around the league believe the Dolphins will make a pretty big offer for Deshaun Watson. Who really knows what's going to happen with the situation? At this point, I feel like it doesn't really matter. I think either way the Dolphins go down, they should be pretty successful. If they get Deshaun Watson, it's a pretty successful thing to have for your franchise, to have a top 5 quarterback. If they stick with Tua, they still have a pretty bright future as well. And I still believe in Tua. And, of course, I think everybody should still believe in Tua after 1 year. And hopefully we can surround Tua with weapons this offseason. And that's what I think we're all hoping. Because, again, it is underplayed how underwhelming the talent was. Especially at the December of last year, how bad it was for Tua. It's underplayed how bad it was. We make all these excuses for Justin Herbert, how Anthony Lynn was a terrible decision maker, and some of the faults of that Chargers team. But when it comes to Tua, it's all his fault. It's all his fault. And that's not true. It's never one person's fault, and a big reason of why the offense was not that explosive is because it didn't have explosive players on it. It didn't have playmakers on it. And hopefully we fix that for Tua. Moving on from that news story, we'll throw this one in here as one of the quick ones. The Dolphins have officially cut Kyle Van Noy. I think we all saw that coming. We don't need to talk about that. We talked about that last week. And I think that's it for the small ones. I think I'm missing something. Okay, here we go. We'll throw this in here, and then we'll. I feel like I'm missing something, but we'll throw this in here, and then we'll continue on. The Dolphins are interested in Kenny Golladay and Juju Smith-Schuster. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Not really much else to say other than they're reportedly interested in both of these players. I think when you look at these two guys, in my opinion, on the whole situation, either way, I don't really care what they do. Kenny Golladay and Juju Smith-Schuster would obviously be major upgrades to some of the players that we have on the roster now. Kenny Golladay right now is a better player than Preston Williams. Whether you think he's a better player than Devontae Parker or not, that's a different story, but he's a better player than Preston Williams, and then you get into the contractor stuff and stuff like that. Kenny Golladay, when he was healthy, was a number one receiver. He put up double-digit touchdowns. He had well over 1,000 yards receiving. He is a number one, a true blue number one. So if he's healthy, that's the thing. That's my whole thing about Kenny. If he's healthy, it's great. But he's never really been that healthy. And that's what worries me about him. But, if we could get 2 years of him, that would be great. But I want more consistency. So I'm a little kind of half and half on Kenny Golladay. I like the idea of Kenny Golladay being, coming here, being healthy, and everything goes right. But if we're being realistic, it's not really what has happened in the past, in his career so far. So hopefully, I don't know. I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle with the Kenny Golladay situation. And then if you look at, and again, the last time I talked about Kenny Golladay, I really went back and watched him play. He is very similar to Devontae Parker, and to the way he plays and what he's really good at. I think he's a better, he has better quickness than Devontae Parker in terms of getting in and out of breaks. That's a noticeable difference in his game. I think Devontae Parker is a way better athlete than Kenny Golladay. When it comes to open field, catching the ball in the open field, or even on like a go route, I think Devontae probably is a faster player. But when it comes to route running and getting in and out of breaks quicker, and getting separation on a consistent basis, I think Kenny Golladay is better at that than Devontae Parker. When you watch them side by side, they're very similar though, and I see those comparisons, and I'm like, yeah, there is a lot of truth to that. But Kenny, I feel like, better in the middle of the field, he's a way better route runner than Devontae Parker. He gets separation on a more consistent basis than Devontae Parker. So there are things that Kenny does better than Devontae Parker. Kenny's also great at, obviously, if you've seen him play, catching the football and controlling and contorting his body is insane. Like some of the ways he's caught footballs before, and the way he can twist his body around in small spaces and coming down with the ball is very impressive, which makes him a great red zone threat. And like I said, and I think it's very important, Kenny Golladay, great route runner for his size. Like, he gets separation on a consistent, very quick in and out of his breaks. Great, he has a nasty double move. If anybody's ever seen him, go back and watch his best year. Just a nasty route runner for his size. So I think that's what he would add, and that's something that this team needs desperately. There's not enough of that and there hasn't been the last 6-7 years on this team on consistent separation. And we haven't really had a true slot receiver in a long time to kind of be the chain mover like a Hunter Renfrow and get consistent separation on more of the intermediate stuff. And that's what Tua needs. And I think Kenny can provide that. So if he could just stay healthy, that's the only thing I'm worried about with him. We're going to pay him all this money. I just want him to stay healthy. And apparently the market's gone down on him a little bit. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. But overall, I think Kenny would definitely provide some of the things that the team needs. And then moving on to Juju Smith-Schuster. When you look at Juju Smith-Schuster, he's a slot receiver. He is not an outside. He can play on the outside, but he does most of his damage in the slot in the middle of the field. And he's a great route runner. And I think that's what he does best. And again, that's something this team needs, is to get consistent separation and really dominate in the middle of the field on the quick passing game for Tua. And I think Juju Smith-Schuster fits that perfectly. Plus, he's a great run game player. He's great. He's like Hines Ward. Everybody talked about Hines Ward in the slot, or Larry Fitzgerald when he went to the slot, how good they were in the run game. He's the same way. He's a super physical player. And everybody sees Juju Smith-Schuster play, so I don't have to continue to talk about what he does well. He's a little bit overrated. He's had 1,000-yard season in his career, so I feel like people might think of him as like a number one. I don't know. I don't think he's that. I don't think he's a number one. I think Kenny Golladay could be a number one, and has been before. And Juju Smith-Schuster has had number one numbers, but we've seen enough of him. He's played more games than Kenny, and I think we've seen enough for him to say maybe he's just a really, really good two and a really good slot receiver, which is what this team needs. And I would love for Juju Smith-Schuster to be a Miami Dolphin. And I think we all would. So we'll see. We'll keep our eye on that. I think fans would love to have just anything at this point to help Tua out with. And we'll see what they end up deciding to do there. All right, let's get to the big news. And we saved the big news for last. I feel like I'm forgetting something for some reason. Oh, we do have one more. Sorry, guys. We have one more smaller news story. Let me see if I can. I forgot to put it on here, so it's going to take me a second to find it. Oh, okay. Vince Beagle, we re-signed. He's returning to the Dolphins. Obviously, we love Vince. Had a good year in 2019. Hopefully, he can give us... Again, we lost him. Obviously, we lost... We're going to talk about that here in a second. We lost Shaq Lawson. We lost Kyle Van Noy. Getting Beagle back, and we'll talk about some other the moves that the Dolphins made, is obviously going to help the team. So I think we all like the whole Vince Beagle thing. I don't have it here, guys, but the Dolphins re-signed another special teamer from the Bengals to a 3-year deal. He was mainly a special team player, a special team specialist, had a high grade on special teams. The Dolphins signed to a 3-year deal. I don't have it here, guys. I'm sorry. We got to keep it going here. Nobody really cares. Hey, he's a fullback / tight end special teams player. Not really too much to talk about there, unless he becomes. I very highly doubt that he will become anything more than that on the team. So let's get into the big news story, or the big news stories, really. Sorry, guys. I'm trying not to sneeze or anything into the mic here. So let's get into 2 big stories of the day. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins to acquire Titans first-round pick Isaiah Wilson. The Titans are moving on from Isaiah Wilson after just one season. They will trade, again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors, they will trade the 2020 first-round tackle to the Dolphins, according to Ian Rappaport of NFL.com. Let's see here. Let's get you to the facts here. The Dolphins will send a 2021 7th-round pick to the Titans in exchange for Wilson and a 2022 7th-rounder. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated tweets. So the Dolphins are literally just trading 7th-round picks for Isaiah Wilson. And I think this is obviously this is an amazing move. You get a premier tackle that was, at the very least, they had a 2nd-round grade on him last year. And a lot of people thought if he went back to college, he would be a top 15 pick and could improve on his game. So I think when you look at Isaiah Wilson's game and what he can do to help the team, he's more, and again, same thing with Robert Hunt, even though I think Robert Hunt is a more natural tackle than Isaiah Wilson. I think Isaiah Wilson could be a better guard than a tackle. His best attribute of his game is run blocking and just moving people off the ball. He's a massive, massive offensive lineman. He's huge. So it makes, and something that makes me excited about this move is, you hear all about the time about big offensive lines, big fronts. And I think that's what the Dolphins are building here, is their offensive line is pretty dang big with the addition of Isaiah Wilson. You got Robert Hunt, who might work the same side. That's a pretty big right side of the offensive line. And I think, especially with Robert Hunt and what he does so well in terms of power football, having those two on the same side, and we'll see what kind of run scheme we work with, makes this line bigger and more physical. And I think that's what you see with a lot of the successful run games, is they usually have bigger offensive lines, and I think that's what the Dolphins are really doing here. And to get a first-round pick, he was the 29th overall pick, so he was almost, obviously, bottom of the first round, but still, to get him for a 7th-round pick, obviously he has off-the-field issues, but Brian Flores is a great coach, and I have faith in him to, this won't obviously be an issue, but I'm excited to see what he can bring to the team. And like I said, he could 1,000%. The thing he does is help out the run game. He didn't. I think the negative to this, and I'm not even going to talk about off the field issues, is he didn't play a lot his rookie season. He was around the team though, so in a perfect world, you would have liked him to at least play like 8 games. So we'll see where his development is by the time the season starts, especially with we don't know how the offseason is going to look necessarily. So we'll see. I think that's the only like kind of drawback to this trade is that. But I'm excited to see where his potential can take him because he is a very good prospect, and to get him for a 7th round pick is pretty awesome. So, and again, makes the offensive line better at what they were weakest at, which is the run game. All right, let's move on to the next news story. And we were talking about, obviously, the loss of Kyle Van Noy on last week's episode and some of the linebacker depth things. Obviously, we re-signed Vince Spiegel. The Dolphins made another move to improve the linebacker core. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins trade Shaq Lawson to Texans, for Benardrick McKinney. The Dolphins and Texans are in agreement on a trade that will send inside linebacker Benardrick McKinney to Miami in exchange for outside linebacker Shaq Lawson, as Adam Schefter of ESPN.com reports. So basically, this is an exchange of players, and I think if I'm not, let's see here, if I can't find it, I'm trying to get you the numbers here. All right, here we go. Reports that the Dolphins will send their 2021 6th round pick to Houston, and will get the Texans' 7th round pick. So it's basically an exchange of 7ths, and Shaq Lawson and Benardrick McKinney. It's an exchange for those players. So just to reiterate that, the Dolphins are trading Shaq Lawson and a 6th round pick to the Texans for McKinney and their 7th round pick. And to get you more numbers on McKinney here, oh no, I guess we don't really have him. Anyway, here we go. McKinney was a Pro Bowler in 2018. His run game numbers, in terms of his Pro Football Focus grade, he was only behind Luke Kuechly and Bobby Wagner. He was 3rd in the league. He had an 89.9 or something crazy like that. That was the year he made the Pro Bowl. Obviously, he missed last year. He only played, I think, 3 games or 4 games last year with a shoulder injury. Super explosive player. Great open field tackler. And like I said, really good in the run game. And I think that's when I say really good in the run game, I'm talking insanely good in the run. Like, he is very hard to deal with up front. Physical player. Can play on the outside as well and the inside just as well. Either whatever you ask him to do, outside, inside linebacker, he does at an exceptional level, especially against the run. And he's good in coverage, too. He's a better athlete than Kyle Van Noy. And like I said, he's a younger player, too. He's only been in the league 5 years. And again, I think the best thing that he does is stop the run, and that's something that this team struggled with last year. And I think he's going to bring. I think he's a clear upgrade from Kyle Van Noy when it comes to that. And that's something that I was worried about when we let Kyle Van Noy go. Is are we going to have someone to consistently be that edge-setting guy and that versatile guy who can play inside and out? And Whitney Merciless is just a younger, more explosive version of Kyle Van Noy, and a better run defender too. If you look at the stats. And if you watch him play, too, I mean, the dude is, like I said, the thing that jumps off to me, explosive and really good in the run game. Like, insanely good in the run game. And he's a really, really, really good blitzer. And I think he has pass rush ability, too. If we put him on the outside, on the edge, and let him rush the passer on 3rd downs, I think he would be insanely good at that. He's so good up front, in the front 7, and really, just a problem to deal with, whether it's the pass protection or trying to get him under control in the running game. He is a problem, and he's going to be a really fun player to watch beside Jerome Baker because they're both really good athletes. Benardrick McKinney. Now, like I said, he brings a physical nature that Landon Roberts brought to the team last year at the middle linebacker spot, and I think he could be a 3-down play. I think the way he's going to... There's so many things you can do with him. I love this trade so much because I think the Dolphins really did get a very, very good player for not nothing. Shaq Lawson put some good games together for us last year, but he's not a better player than McKinney at all. McKinney is by far the better player, and he fills a huge need. And we get younger and more athletic at that position. And I'm very excited to see him play with Jerome Baker. Like I said, I think he brings that physicality that Landon Roberts brought to us, but he's a 3-down player. He's not amazing he's not like Fred Warner in coverage, but he's good enough, and where he excels is in the front 7. Like I said, he can blitz, he can rush the passer, and he's exceptionally good in the run game. And he's an explosive open field tackler. And I'm very, very excited to see what he can do beside Jerome, who both are really good athletes, both of those players. And, what we saw with the Buccaneers with Levante David and Devin White and how hard it was to get sideline to sideline on them, I think we're going to have something similar here with both of these players. And hopefully he can stay healthy. But it's going to be very hard to get the edge on us and outrun us from sideline to sideline with these two. And again, what we want to do, especially with this team, and hopefully we continue to add on to the pass rush, and we'll see if we do, and especially with Vince Beagle coming back, we want to get you in as many 3rd down and longs as possible. And what McKinney's going to do for us is do that. He's going to do that exact thing for us, and he is going to get teams in more 3rd and long situations because he is so good against the run. I love this move so much. I think it was a really good trade for us, and I think we got a steal in a player. I mean, I think, again, this is a Pro Bowl caliber middle linebacker, and I think he can easily get back to that. No problem. Obviously, he dealt with a lot of injuries last year, but coming to a defense as good as ours, top 5 in scoring all year last year, I think is going to be a good change of scenery for him, and I think he's going to excel and shine in this scheme. So I'm very excited about this. I'm very, very excited about the tandem of Baker and McKinney because I think it's going to be so fun to watch. So I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think we have anything else to talk about. So let's get into the fan Q&A, where we answer fans' questions. I'm very excited about the McKinney trade. He's going to be so fun to watch on the defense. He's so versatile. He affects the passing game, the running game on the defensive side of the ball. He is going to be so fun to watch. I think he'll be, for sure, a fan favorite. He's going to make so many impact plays. He just needs to stay healthy. And he's been pretty durable. He's only had one bad season of that, and that was last year. So history tells us that he's a pretty durable player as well. So I think the Dolphins did a very good job in a perfect scheme fit. By the way, I'm gonna continue to keep talking about this dude because this scheme requires you to be versatile, and you saw that with Kyle Van Noy. Kyle Van Noy would start. He would play middle linebacker on 3 downs. Like he would be in the middle linebacker position. He'd be on the outside linebacker position. He'd drop back in coverage. Take some of those shallow crosses away. McKinney is just such a better athlete than him that he's just going to be able to do more stuff. And he's a better pass rusher. And he's more explosive, too. And, some of the things that I was talking about, and this is the last thing I'll say about McKinney, but some of the things I was talking about that the Dolphins will miss from Kyle Van Noy is some of the stunts that we do up front, because we do get creative. Doing that with McKinney is going to be unfair, because he is more explosive and more physical than Kyle, and he's just going to make some of the stuff, some of the creative stuff we do up front even better, especially with some of those blitz packages. Like he's going to be like a shot out of a cannon if you mess up your pass protection. It's going to be over. So I'm very excited about McKinney. This first question comes from Mark. He says, so Brian Flores came out and said Tua is the guy. However, many still feel, especially, again, we're getting into the fan Q&A. This first question comes from Mark. He says, still feel, especially with some of the free agent moves we've made, Deshaun Watson is still on our radar. What are your thoughts? I would say yes if he becomes available. I would say that the Dolphins would at least make an offer. I don't know if they would get in a bidding war, though, for Deshaun Watson, but I definitely think they would make an offer. This next question comes from SM. He says, I'm actually pumped for the Dolphins to trade out of the 3 spot and collect a huge bounty. Might be the Steelers' thoughts on how much Miami would get in return for such a massive trade down. So you're pumped for the Dolphins to trade out of the 3 spot and collect a huge bounty. Might be the Steelers. They would have to come up a long way to get to the 3 spot. I don't know if you necessarily want their first-round picks because they are the Steelers. So I don't know if that's the greatest trade partner in the world. But yeah, I mean, the idea of trading down from 3, and especially with I think the quarterbacks are getting hyped up to a fair good amount now. There seems to be at least 4 in this draft, and especially with the Trey Lance situation that everybody's freaking out about his pro day. Like, there's at least 4 to 5 guys that are projected to go in the first round, and it might be 3 to 4 that go in the top 10. That just makes the third overall pick that much more valuable. So the idea of actually getting out of that spot, I think you could actually get a lot in return for that. Sorry, guys. Okay. This question comes from Ahmed. He says, "Thank you for your positivity in the podcast. I've been listening to you for years, and I think the most negative I've heard you is regarding Adam Gase and Tua being Stephen Ross's pick." Yeah, it's probably as much as I've gotten fired up. He says, he said he was just kidding, but yeah, it's true. He says, "What do you think about Trey Lance pro day and media now claiming chances of teams trading for the number 3 pick is very high now? Also, what do you think the Dolphins' record will be I don't do the record thing. I never predict the records. I just don't do that. Just a superstitious thing. But in terms of the Trey Lance, it does affect the 3rd overall pick. And we'll see what the Dolphins end up doing. I just hope that, listen, as much as I would love to trade down, I just hope they get a good player and get the player that they want in the draft, more than I would want another first-round pick, because you obviously have to, be good at using those first-round picks. And I just hope that's what the Dolphins at least get a quality player in the draft. I think that's the thing that I'm hoping for the most. This next question comes from SM. He says, "Mr. Skaggs, I really like how this current GM tries hard to get value for every player, even players that plan to move on. They plan to move on from. We all remember under Adam Gase, Mike Tannenbaum, we got in it. Okay, hold on. Sorry, guys. If you made it 29 minutes in, we can take a nose break here. All right. Let's see here. All right. We all remember under Adam Gase, again, this question comes from SM/Mike Tannenbaum, we got taken advantage of often. The question is, what happened with the Kyle Van Noy deal? Someone close to the team leaked that the Dolphins were going to release Van Noy, so of course no team was willing to give up draft picks. Do you think Brian and Chris are going to fix this problem moving forward? I don't know. This seems to have been an issue multiple times. This has seemed to be a problem with some of the leaks that this organization has had. I don't know what's going on with that. But in terms of being taken advantage of, I don't necessarily think those guys got taken advantage of a lot. I just think that they just made poor decisions. And I think obviously Chris, and the thing that I will say about Chris and Brian that they do better than past regimes is they have a clear vision and they never waver from it. Like, they're not in 2 years into a rebuild, or not even a rebuild, or building the team, and think, oh, we're going to do this now instead of this. They have a clear vision, they stick to that vision, and they don't waver from it. And I think that's the most impressive thing. And all of the players that they get fit what they try to do. Just like the McKinney trade. I mean, he's going to be such a good fit in that scheme. It's going to make him a better player. Because he's such a good fit in this game. And that's what New England has been infamous for over 20 years now, is just getting players that might not necessarily have fit other schemes and bring them to New England, and then now they're amazing because of the fit of the player within the scheme. And again, I think that's what this regime does better than others, is they have a clear vision, they know the players that they want, and they get players that fit their vision. And that's something that I think they do better than most did before this organization. Before previous regimes. This next question comes from SM. He says, if we take Chase at 3 and then trade up from 18 and take one of the Bama wide receivers, but in doing so we lose out on running back Harris, would you be okay with that? If we got Waddle and Jamar Chase, yeah, I would be okay with that. I think everybody would be okay with that. That would be awesome. And again, I could totally see the Dolphins waiting to do that to get weapons in the draft as opposed to free agency. I could see that. And maybe just kind of add to the defense a little bit. Because if you look at the secondary and some of the players that are still available, there's a lot of really good corners available. There's a lot of good corners flat that could play safety for us if we wanted to. There's some good outside linebackers still available. When you think about Melvin Ingram and Jadeveon Clowney, there's some good players still out there. So I can see the Dolphins waiting till the draft to really get some of those weapons. This next question comes from Diaz. He says, "Hey brother, if Aaron Jones reaches free agency," okay, well he didn't. He re-signed with the Packers. Is he a Dolphin? Also, what do you think about adding Keanu Neal? I don't think Keanu Neal fits the scheme. He's more of a zone player. He's not a good enough athlete to do some of the things that we ask safeties to do. I mean, Eric Rowe and Bobby McCain are our safeties, and they obviously played corner in for most of their career, and that's not just a coincidence. They need to be able to match up with slot receivers or a receiver or a tight end in man-to-man coverage, and Keanu Neal just doesn't fit that. He's more of an off-the-ball, I'm looking at the quarterback, I'm patrolling the middle of the field type of a safety than he is a versatile man-to-man type of a safety. John Johnson would have been a perfect guy for us, but obviously he's moved on to the Cleveland Browns. This next question comes from JackPack18. He says, "I like the moves management is making so far. Trading a 7th for Wilson is very low risk if he pans out. Also, was not impressed with Shaq Lawson's play last season, so glad to see they're moving on from him. At the same time, I'm kind of confused as to why management gives some of these guys like Van Noy and Lawson such big contracts just to move on from them after 1 year. Seems like a little short-sighted." Well, the way that the contracts were constructed, it's not short-sighted. I think they kind of had an idea of, and again, when you, especially with the Shaq Lawson situation, they traded that contract to a different team. Both of the McKinney contract and the Lawson contract are very similar, so that's just a wash. So I don't think that really applies to the Lawson thing. Now, if we cut Lawson, that would be a different story. So since we cut Van Noy, we didn't really owe him any money. So it was kind of we really didn't lose much. We actually saved money cutting him. So I think the way that the contracts were structured isn't short-sighted. So I wouldn't call it short-sighted, Jack Pack. So I don't think that's something to worry about. Richard says, "How about the Dolphins bringing in Kansas City's offensive tackle Eric Fisher in to be backup? That's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea at all." This next question comes from KC Fanatic. He says, "Who's your favorite free agent player to acquire for the Fins? What do you think of Marvin Jones as a wide receiver for the Fins? Thanks for the podcast." I love Marvin Jones. I think he would be a good player for the Dolphins. Add some speed and some deep routing that this team definitely needs. But my favorite free agent player, that's a tough question. I don't know. There's not. The funny thing is I know we need playmakers, but there's not one that I'm like insanely like in love with in terms of the idea of like, oh man, I really would love to have him on the team. There's really nobody like that. There's a lot of players that I would like to have on the team, but I wouldn't freak out if we didn't get them. I'm trying to think. I would say most of them, if I had to rank them, honestly, most of them would probably be defensive players that are left in this draft in terms of, like, I think most of the defensive players that are in this free agency class are better than the offensive players. Like, some of the DBs that are still left are very good. Even some of the offensive linemen are pretty decent. But I don't know. I don't think I have necessarily one guy that I would say sticks out to me. I like Juju Smith-Schuster. I like Hassan Reddick's a good name. Marcus May. I don't think he got tagged. He'd be a great fit for the Dolphins. Patrick Peterson, Casey Hayward. Obviously, Nick Needham's a free agent. There's kind of a hole there, unless the Dolphins are confident in Igbenogany. Jadeveon Clowney. there's so many good under the radar guys. Most of them, I mean, like I said, there's Gerald Everett. He's a great tight end. Jared Cook would be a nice tight end combination with Mike Gesicki. Alden Smith, he had a nice year for the even though I don't necessarily think he's a good fit. James White, James Conner, those are two good running backs. I think James Conner would be a nice fit. Lawrence Guy could be a pretty awesome addition to the team. Great in the run game. But when you look at and Leonard Fournette obviously would be a nice addition to the team. But a lot of good front seven guys, like Kerrigan, like I said, Clowney, Ingram. There's a lot of Lawrence Guy could be a good rotational player for us. Patrick Peterson, like I said, you put him in the slot. Hassan Reddick could be. I think Hassan Reddick has a bright future ahead of him. Could be a nice under the radar signing. So I think again, like I said, there's a lot of interesting players out there. I'm very intrigued by the defensive backs. I'm interested to see if the Dolphins will maybe take a flyer out, especially someone like Casey Hayward or Patrick Peterson. To pair him up with the secondary that we already have would be awesome. You know, Stephon Gilmore. I think J.C. Jackson is still out there, if I'm not mistaken, unless New England tagged him. So there's a lot of interesting areas the Dolphins can do. And I wouldn't be surprised if they went all defense. And then, again, maybe address some of the issues with the playmaking deficiencies in the draft. So we'll see. I am Skaggs1583. I hope you guys enjoyed. Super short episode, but I wanted to get this out before free agency continued, and then we'll have a super long one, hopefully, over the weekend and really discuss what the Dolphins ended up doing.